It's recap time. 3, 2. Hey, quick interruption, Future Chip here. If you're coming from the previous video and you already know the drill, you can skip directly to the recap. Otherwise, if this is your first time, I'll let you with the intro and enjoy the episode. 1. Hello everybody and welcome to the Shower Podcast, the podcast where I'm in my shower and you do you. I'm your host Chip and this is not my usual intro. This is a bit of a special episode. Unfortunately, I will be away for a few days and I found out this interesting way of filling the gaps with recaps from previous episodes. If this is your first time here, use it as an opportunity to find topics that you might be interested in and go back to listen to the original ones. If you are a usual listener of the Shower Podcast, well, again, this might be a rehearsal of topics that you might be interested in. Otherwise, I understand if you want to wait for me to be back. But in the meanwhile, the podcast needs to continue and we need to reach day 365. Having said that, I will not keep you longer. Thank you very much for listening. As always, a like and a subscribe, they are always welcome. And now, recap time.
So if you happen to miss the 7-episode miniseries, What If the Brain Could Talk? You were in the right place.
You're about to get the ultimate shortcut.
We spent a whole week doing these internal interviews. We sat down with the most essential parts of our own heads.
I mean, attention, dopamine, sleep, the whole crew.
Yeah, and the central idea was, well, it was brilliantly simple.
It was. If these core brain functions could actually talk to us, what would they say? What instructions would they give us for how to operate the machinery?
And maybe stop fighting against ourselves all the time.
That's the core of it, really.
And just a quick note on the production, because a lot of people asked, in the originals, the host played both parts, the interviewer and the brain guest.
Right, which was a creative choice. He performed both voices himself, just with a slight shift in tone.
It was all about keeping the sound consistent, avoiding any weirdness from like an AI voice generator, kept the focus purely on the ideas.
It definitely worked. It let some pretty complex topics land really cleanly.
So our mission today is to boil down those 7 conversations into the most practical takeaways for you.
And we should probably start where all effort begins, with attention.
Right. So we went in thinking attention is just like a spotlight, a narrow beam, but that's not quite right.
Not at all. We learned it's more like a 3-part crew. You have the alerting system, which is just about being ready.
Right.
Then the orienting system, which points you toward what's important. And finally, the executive control team that actually holds your focus on the goal.
And what really stood out was the cost of mismanaging that crew.
Oh, the cost is huge. Attention explained that every single time you task switch, from your work to your email and back again.
Just for a second.
Even for a second, your entire system gets hit with this hidden fee. It's not a smooth handoff, it's a full reconfiguration.
So the brain literally has to, drop the old rules, load up the new ones, and then rebuild the whole mental picture of what you were just doing.
Exactly. It sounds exhausting because it is exhausting, even if each pause feels tiny.
And does that, does it actually show up in your performance?
It absolutely does. Research shows those little pauses add up to very real costs. People respond slower, they make more mistakes, especially when the tasks get more complex.
And then there was that other thing, I'll just peak tax.
Yes. The studies on this are fascinating, and just having your phone nearby, even if it just buzzes once, it actually reduces your mental bandwidth.
I feel so unfair. I'm ignoring it. Why am I still paying a price?
Because a part of your system, that executive control team, has to use up its resources just to resist the temptation.
So it's actively working to not look.
It is. So the practical takeaway was so simple. To make it easier to get back on task, you just leave a breadcrumb, a note, half a sentence you were about to write.
Something to grab onto.
A concrete anchor. It gives your control team an easy way back in.
Okay, so once we understood those costs and how to focus, the next logical question was, what actually drives us to do the work in the first place?
Which brought us to the conversation with dopamine.
And dopamine came in hot right away, correcting the biggest myth.
Immediately. It is not the pleasure chemical. It's a learning and drive system. It's about tagging what matters, guiding you to seek things out, and updating your expectations.
That distinction was huge. That split between liking something, the actual enjoyment, and wanting it.
The wanting is the chase. The craving, they call it incentive salience.
We've all been there, right? Refreshing the tracking page for a package over and over, the chase is so much more powerful than the moment it actually arrives.
Precisely. And dopamine's main job is teaching. It's a teacher. It works using what's called a prediction error signal.
A prediction error? Okay, what does that mean?
So if a reward is better than you expected, dopamine spikes. That's a signal saying, hey, do that again.
Got it.
But if you expect a reward and it doesn't show up, dopamine dips. And that signal says, update your model, your prediction was wrong.
So when I'm procrastinating, feeling zero motivation, I shouldn't be looking for some big spark of excitement. I should be making the path clearer.
Exactly. Dopamine is all about behavioral activation. If your brain's model of a task is just this vague, effortful blob with an unclear reward, your willingness to start just plummets.
So don't chase the spikes.
Don't chase spikes. Build reliable signals. Make the very first step of a task super concrete. Make your progress easy to see. That way, the system can predict a clean link between your action and the outcome.
That whole idea of prediction and mental models, it leads perfectly into the system that's always running simulations.
Episode 358, the Default Mode Network, or the DMN.
Also known as the story room. This is the part of the brain that lights up when you're not focused on the outside world, right?
It is. It's running simulations of the past, thinking about yourself, and rehearsing the future. That classic mental time travel.
And it can be so useful when it's healthy, but it can also be incredibly damaging.
For sure. When it's working well, the DMN just kind of wanders, makes these weird connections, and comes back with a new idea. It's where the raw material for creativity comes from.
But when does that process go wrong? Why do we get stuck in these negative spirals?
That's when the DMN gets caught in a loop. Instead of wandering and finding a new path, it just rehearses the exact same stuff over and over with no resolution.
That's rumination.
That is the definition of rumination, and it's very strongly linked to depression. The key difference is forward movement.
But you can't just turn it off. I mean, you need it. The DMN said it has to team up with the executive control regions to be useful.
Yes, the same ones attention uses. The idea is to generate, then refine.
So the takeaway wasn't to crush it, but to use it on purpose.
Use it deliberately. Give it a container. Give it a direction. Don't just let it wander for hours. Go for a walk with one specific question in mind, or use a journal prompt.
Make the future thinking specific.
So the brain can actually learn from a concrete simulation instead of just spinning on vague worries.
Okay, after all that thinking, simulating, focusing, the whole system needs a break. It needs maintenance.
Which brought us to episode 359 with sleep.
And sleep did not mess around. It basically said, I am not a luxury add-on.
Not at all. I'm part of the engine. It shifts the brain into this special maintenance mode for stabilizing and consolidating everything you learned that day.
And that old saying, sleep on it, it's actually real.
It has real teeth. Sleep can literally reorganize how your memories are stored. It dramatically increases your chances of gaining insight on a problem you were stuck on.
It's like your brain is tidying up the information.
It is, and it's also critical for our emotional health. When you're sleep deprived, the connection between your emotion generator, the amygdala, and your prefrontal cortex gets weaker.
The prefrontal cortex being the part that helps you regulate those emotions.
Right, so sleep's analogy was perfect. You're functioning like a raw nerve with fewer breaks.
Wow, that puts the stakes really high. And then sleep talked about this amazing mechanism for resetting our ability to learn.
Ah, yes. A synaptic homeostasis hypothesis.
Okay, can you break that down for us?
For sure. So think of your synapses, the connections between your brain cells, as having a volume dial. All day, as you learn, you're turning that volume up.
Right.
If it gets too loud, too saturated, the system can't really take in new information. Sleep is what comes in and quietly turns the volume back down on those connections.
So it restores your capacity to learn the next day.
It resets the budget. Beautifully put.
So how do we actually get into that maintenance mode?
The advice was so powerful. The brain falls asleep when it's not being asked to perform. So make the transition boring in a good way, lower the lights, reduce any emotional drama.
And the tomorrow plan.
Oh, that was critical. Set a clear plan for tomorrow. If your brain knows the to-do list is handled, it prevents the DMN from firing up and rehearsing all that unfinished business.
So with the brain rested, brakes working, we can finally turn to the tool we use for today's tasks.
Episode 360, our mental workbench. Working memory.
And the big shock here was just how tiny this workbench is.
It's incredibly small. Your core capacity is maybe a handful of items, 4 chunks of information if you're lucky. It's a sharp tool, not a big warehouse.
Which explains so much, like why I blank out when I'm under pressure.
That's pressure blanking. And working memory was clear. Stress doesn't erase your knowledge. It just disrupts your ability to use it.
How does it do that?
Well, when you're under uncontrollable stress, your brain rapidly weakens the function of the prefrontal cortex. It literally shifts priorities away from the networks that hold information in the spotlight.
So my brain is actively reassigning resources away from the task to deal with the threat.
It's a critical distinction. The knowledge is still in there, but you can't get it onto the bench in real time.
So you can't just try harder to have a bigger workbench.
You can't. The only smart move is to simplify. The cheat code is chunking, linking new info to meaning you already have.
And the main takeaway was just stop asking it to be your storage.
Exactly. Offload intelligently. Use checklists, notes, calendars. Let the system do what it's good at analyzing and creating instead of being a bottleneck that's just trying to hold on.
And that idea of offloading leads us right into automation.
Episode 361, the master of automation, habits, and the basal ganglia.
Right. So this system is all about efficiency. It takes things that you do consciously, which costs a lot of energy, and shifts them to these automated, cue-driven programs.
It's your internal autopilot. These habits are like little chunks of behavior with a start and stop signal. And importantly, this explains why bad habits are so hard to break.
Even when they're not rewarding anymore.
The basal ganglia is value neutral. It doesn't care if the outcome is good or bad. It only cares if the action is cued, repeated, and reinforced. That's it.
So trying to fight a bad habit midstream is just a terrible idea. It's an autopilot sequence.
You can't win an arm wrestle with the autopilot once it's launched. The only effective strategy is to intervene before the routine starts.
Change the cue.
Change the cue. Hide the trigger. Add some friction to that very first step. It is so much more effective than trying to use willpower halfway through.
So the goal is to build good routines that protect your energy, and then just let the habit system run them. That frees up your attention and working memory for the hard stuff.
Which brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, the unifying force behind all of this change.
Episode 362, neuroplasticity.
The brain's measurable ability to change based on what you do day in and day out.
And this isn't just, some motivational poster stuff. This is real. There are measurable changes in the brains of people who learn to juggle. Or those London taxi drivers.
Oh, the London cabbie studies are amazing.
Yeah.
And this plasticity goes deep. It's not just rewiring synapses. It can actually change the efficiency and the timing of the signals themselves.
By improving the insulation on the wires, basically.
That's a great way to put it. Activity-dependent myelination. It's real infrastructure change.
But the most challenging insight for me was about the direction of plasticity.
It's a tough pill to swallow. The brain just gets better at whatever it does repeatedly. If you practice focus, you get better at focus.
But if you practice interruption and context switching and checking your phone every 2 minutes,
you are training your brain to be fluent in distraction.
they're always training.
Always. And if that change feels hard and clumsy at first, it's because it is. You're forcing your brain to invest energy in a new, inefficient pathway. And if you stop, those old, well-worn superhighways are still there, waiting.
So it's not about one big, heroic push. It's about small, consistent practice in the direction you actually want to go.
So now that we've gone through all 7, what do you think is the thread that connects them all?
For me, it's the interconnectedness. You've got the default mode network that needs to wander and create, bumping right up against the tiny, focused, working memory. They're opposites, but they need each other.
Absolutely. And sleep is the maintenance contract that makes all of it possible. It stabilizes the changes from neuroplasticity. It makes sure attention's control team shows up ready to work.
The theme is adaptation. Every single system just adapts to what you feed it. Clarity, confusion, cues. It just responds.
So what's the big shift in perspective for you, the listener, after hearing all this?
It has to be this. Your effort should be directed outward, not inward.
Yes. Stop trying to brute force your internal capacity. Stop trying to hold one more thing in working memory or wrestling a bad habit with willpower.
Instead, focus that energy on building better external systems.
Clearer cues in your environment, defined boundaries for your mind. If you optimize the world around you, the brain will adapt to that.
That is a perfect way to wrap it all up. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive recap. If any one of these topics really grabbed you, the original 7 episodes have so much more detail.
And remember that final thought from both neuroplasticity and attention. Whether you are focused or interrupted, you are always training your brain to be fluent in that state. So choose what you practice.
See you tomorrow.